Hello guys! It is time for part 6 of this little watercolor series that I'm doing. I do apologize for the occasional blurriness in this one. I just did not have my camera at the right angle, I guess. But anyway, you'll get the idea and it gets a little bit better as we go. But hello and welcome back. I am so happy you are here and following along with this little series. This week we are working on part 6, and I've got, obviously these are all favorites of mine, but I've got a few I'm really excited to talk about. And yeah, if you'll just watch to the end and let me know what your favorite one is, which one turned out the best in your opinion. I am having a really good time doing this. I can't wait to get to other things, but I just don't have any updates for now, so we're just gonna enjoy getting our little doodles done. I am excited to see the whole thing though. I haven't done a long project like this in a while. Alright, so we're going to start with our clover. Now, normally people would probably want to draw a 4-leaf clover, but I really just like clover in general. 4-leaf clovers are great. I have only ever found one in person, like in real life, in the yard. And it was back when I was in high school, so it's been a really long time since I've seen one, but clover is awesome. It produces little flowers for bees, and it's a more sustainable ground coverage instead of grass. It's just kind of better for the environment and stuff, and if I ever get to have like a full-on yard or even just like a cute little condo mini backyard situation, I will 100% be putting in full-blown clover. And this little guy is a tardigrade. If you've been on the channel before, you know that I love them and that I have painted many of them in the past. He is very difficult to paint tiny, which is ironic because they're microscopic. But for those of you who don't know, they are like the strongest or the most robust creatures on the planet. They can survive space, they can survive volcanic vents at the bottoms of the oceans. They are teeny tiny, and other than being called a tardigrade, they are also known as water bears and moss pigs. And one of my bucket list items is to hopefully see one for real one day, like through a microscope. So I need to figure out how to make that happen because I just think that would be really cool. I like to paint them kind of this bluish teal kind of color because they're usually depicted this way, but I'm imagining that they're actually fairly clear. And then this is a seed packet. We're going to come back in and give lots of details like we usually do towards the end, but I love a seed packet. I actually have this vision for when I have my full, like my real studio or wherever we end up next, and I get to have an entire room, that I would love to buy some seeds to obviously grow, but then I want to keep the little packets and make a piece of art out of them. I think that would be really cool. I especially love the ones that look very like hand-drawn and stuff. A lot of them are photographs now, but you can still find the really cool ones here and there. Specifically wildflowers, those are my favorite ones. And this little guy is a possum. I went a little heavy on the whiskers because I forgot that I do have a mouse down below, and I was like, why did I make his ears so, like, they weirdly look, he looks like a mouse initially, but once I get the painting in, you know, he'll obviously read possum, but possums are really cool. I think they get a bad rep. A lot of you that are on this channel, if you like the Goblincore type stuff, you probably know quite a bit about opossums because they have, you know, like, they've just been misrepresented, you know? People think that they're dirty, and they're really not. They actually eat ticks and things that, you know, are really good for the environment and for you. So the next time you see one, don't scream, although they might scream at you. But anyway, there's a mouse down in a couple of rows later that we'll get to, and I had plans on making him actually brown, so I'm glad they're gonna look very different from each other. And then this tree, we're gonna start out painting the background of it green, but fall is my favorite season, and besides a couple of leaves that we have coming up to paint, I really wanted a whole tree representing fall because one, I love trees, but also fall is my favorite season, so you know, there's a lot of nods to fall in here and the things from fall that I love. And then this is just like one of those vintage, I wouldn't necessarily call it junk or costume jewelry because I really don't have a lot of that myself, but this just represents beautiful gemstone rings. We'll get back and paint the main gem of that here in a little bit. And I am calling this little guy, he is technically supposed to be a crow, but I sort of made it an amalgamation of a crow and a raven because I love both of them, but I didn't want to paint both of them. And you might as well lump magpies in there too because they're all kind of my favorite, you know, group of birds. I love the corvids. But I like to come in and do them pretty dark black and then add in some kind of like purples and blues and stuff because they have that kind of oil slick color when the light hits them just right. And yeah, so, you know, we're not going to be too specific about his beak shape or anything like that because they are very different for the two specifically, but it's a crow, it's a raven for this project's purpose. I really like how these colors will melt back into the black a little bit, and then we'll come back later and do some stuff on top to kind of give it some more texture. And this is a basket. It's just a regular basket. I love a basket. I love to thrift a basket. I think they make great gifts. I think they are great gifts for me. I like that they organize. They're also usually very intricate and handmade. And I like that aspect of them. I don't know, they just make me think of simple times, and I love that they come in so many shapes and sizes, and they're so useful, but they're also decorative. I just don't know why you wouldn't love a basket. This one specifically, I kind of designed it to be like a flower basket, like one you would take to the market on the weekends or something. This is a thimble. I actually really wanted to go kind of like really intricate. I have a lot of really cool thimbles that I've collected over the years, but I really just wanted this one to end up being the main, like just that little aluminum, I'm assuming, metal, regular old thimble because that's what kind of represents the whole idea of it to begin with. I also like to embroider and sew. I don't do it often and I don't do it a whole lot as far as, you know, the small business goes for sure, but every now and then I like to dabble in it. I do kind of repair shirts and things like that and take care of my husband's uniform and things when I need to also. And then this is a little river or a creek, specifically a creek. There's one that runs beside my grandma's house that I have very, very fond memories of growing up and catching water spiders and little crawfish and just had a lot of fun hanging out in the creek in the backyard. The clover also represents March, obviously St. Patrick's Day, but my dad's birthday is in March, and it's kind of a little nod to him, the way that the crystal at the beginning, I think on that very first row that I painted purple, is like the amethyst that kind of represents my mom. And there are other things throughout that make me think of different people for different reasons, and things are multifaceted that way. So when we come in and we start adding the black on this possum, it really kind of starts to pull them together, I think. And when I first started drawing it, I really was like, is this the mouse? But I could have made his face a little less mousy. But that's okay. We're not going for perfect here. We are just having a good time, trying to be creative and staying on a routine so that things aren't so difficult to get back into the swing of things when we finally get some information on where we're moving next. Obviously, you gotta add shading to the basket here. That's kind of what gives it that, not just dimension, but it really makes it feel like a basket. And then this thimble, I like to sometimes use a little dab of a paper towel to make sure that that color is going to not set too dark, but also be a different enough color that, you know, I'm not just doing it for no reason. And it's supposed to kind of mimic the shadows of the dimpling there, so I think I pulled that off pretty good considering how teeny tiny these things are and how difficult it can be to make sure I get a lot of texture and stuff in there. And then I'm just painting the rocks on the river and then going in and painting the trees. And you'll see I do this a lot and I don't really know why, but I start painting foreground pieces and think, oh yeah, well, obviously I'm painting the background a little bit on these, so I come back in and do that later. But we'll differentiate these greens here in a little bit. This is, you know, me just forgetting about the background. I did make the seed packets daisies because, again, those are like my favorite flowers, but they're also just very simple and easy to get very small while maintaining their detail. If I had wanted to do, you know, like a tulip or something, that would have worked well too, but I just love a daisy. And this is kind of my favorite color combination. You'll see a lot of white, green, and yellow. I feel like as far as color goes, they are color without being, like, they're still neutrals in a way for me. So you'll see that a lot in my decor and stuff because I like things not to be, I don't want to be millennial gray or anything. A lot of my stuff does read warmer, but I prefer calm and soothing, and yellow, small amounts of yellow and mostly green really accomplish that for me. So here's some details on the Craven. And I'm coming back in, and this looks like really obnoxiously bright on camera for some reason, but this is actually a nice little darker version of this yellow that thankfully melted back into it a little bit and kind of just gives it that like antique look. And then we are going to come in and finally add in some of the fall colors on this tree. I start with like a lighter yellow orange, and then I'm going to come in with a red so that those will mix. And it sort of ends up, once it's been dried for a minute, it sort of ends up reading a little bit more reddish brown. But I actually really like that because that's fairly realistic. And then because I decided to change this into a fall tree, I went back in and made the gemstone, which I didn't really have like an idea of for it before, but I wanted to make it green, like an emerald green. I don't have a whole lot of dark green in the whole painting, so I thought that really fit well. Plus I love green and gold. I think that's one of the best color combinations. Alright, adding some differentiation here in the bushes and the trees for my creek. This creek kind of also makes me think of a park we have back home in North Carolina, next to the elementary school I used to go to. And I've had a lot of great memories there with, especially newer ones with my nieces and nephew, or my niece and nephew. And, you know, just doing some cute little fall walks when we've gone home to visit. I did decide to make this a little bit darker. I thought that blue was a little obnoxious. And then to wrap it all up at the end like we like to do. I'm going to come in and make a very blurry white jelly roll pen pass through everything. I liked adding all this texture into the possum especially because they have like a really salt and peppery coat. And I think it turns out better in person than necessarily on camera, but. And then the little white dots on the tree, it was kind of like, you know, the sun catching the trees, but also having it look a little less full foliage. I wanted to kind of create some white spaces so it looked like things were, you know, that it wasn't full, because obviously things would be falling on the ground. And now that I'm thinking about it, I should have painted right around the tree a little bit of red and yellow leaves or something. Hindsight. Maybe I'll add that in. Let me know in the comment section down below if I should do that. Alright, and then wrapping up the thimble, and then I like to add some like little light spots in the river. Like the light is also catching on it a little too. And that is basically it for part 6. I think my favorite on this one is probably the tardigrade, maybe the seed packet. I'm really happy with how everything is turning out, and I really can't wait to get it all complete so we can start a new project, because I have some ideas coming up based off of what we've done here. So yeah, just let me know your favorites in the comment section down below, and what are you excited about next week, because I have a great story about that first flower there. I can't wait to share it. But I will see you guys then. Thank you so much for being here. Bye bye.